Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Fireside Chat. This time, I am so excited to do this conversation with a fantastic, talented woman who have achieved success, but also opening door for more individuals. And I think when you are in this position, you must enjoy what you do. And I'm so lucky today. I am with Madhavi Bhasin. She is the VP Global People Partner and BEDI. BEDI that stands at Udemy, Belonging, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. I love the fact that it could have been like everybody with D and I say, we're going to take it further. And I think this is also a commitment for brands to understand that it's not just a tick box exercise. We actually mean what we say. Isn't it right? So,
Yeah,
Madhavi,
we
people
believe
being,
it.
yes, exactly. And I think that's one thing we love so much. I mean, I should say it's a bit of a background story. When I started my first entrepreneurship journey, I actually used Udemy to create my first course. People don't know, but I used to be a fashion stylist.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
is impressive.
Yeah, thank you. So I've had multiple career and I understand how you can reinvent yourself. You don't have to have one job for the rest of your life. If you want to change, it's never too late. And it's always this journey of, only you define what is possible, what is impossible. And so Udemy was among the companies that actually helped me raise my profile as a fashion stylist. So I'm always grateful for that. But this is not about me. This is about you. This is also about Udemy. So Madhavi, we want to know more about your journey. I think one thing that is important for brown women and Black women, and to be honest, any woman, we love success stories and we want to learn from it. So I would love to, if you could just maybe take some time to tell us in terms of how did your journey lead you to where you are right now?
Yeah, definitely. One, I'm super excited to be here. So thank you. A little bit about my journey. I'm thinking where I start. So I was born and grew up in India. I'm currently in the US. I was born and grew up in India. I was born in a very conservative Indian family setting. And the idea was like, she's a girl and then she's going to get married at some point and have children. Like that was like the start and the end of the life story. And if she takes good care of her husband and kids, then she's successful. Like that was the definition of success in the social setup that I grew up with. I don't know where I got this from, but I, from the very beginning, did not fix into the box because my whole thing is who's defining the box and why is someone else defining the box for me? So I definitely grew up to be someone who wanted to be a career woman, a professional. And I was told like girls don't need to study so much. I was very stubborn back then. So I decided I will study as much as is humanly possible. So I went on to do my PhD because I was like, I can tell you that girls can study. And then I was on a research project. And my whole idea was like, I want to go into research, tenure track, teach at the university. I came to the US on a research project for 2 years with a university here in California. And then I was just like, I stayed here because the career opportunities were great. And I pivoted. So I've made a number of pivots in my career. So I started with research, but it was also very interesting because when I moved from India, I was like, kind of like, I have a PhD, I've kind of proven myself and arrived.
Yeah.
And then I had navigated everything with, the gender stereotype, not everything, but almost everything is what I thought. And then when I came to the US, it was very interesting because I was a brown woman and an immigrant. So then started another journey of proving yourself because I was told I cannot teach at the university because I don't have like a PhD from a US university. And I'm like, I'm not going to repeat. I don't need to prove myself again.
Yeah.
So then I pivoted my career. I went into the nonprofit sector and started designing a lot of international development programs focused on individual and organizational capacity building. So I worked a lot with the Arab Spring in Middle East and North Africa, a lot of entrepreneurship programs. So I started doing a lot of that and then went into consulting. So that was another pivot on workforce development within tech companies. And that's when I came face to face with the fact like consulting is one piece. You can tell companies what they need to do, but a lot needs to change within the company, their
100%.
process, the mindsets of leaders. And then I was like, if I really want to do this work, I have to be inside. So then I made another pivot and I moved to the corporate sector and started leading diversity and inclusion programs, people strategy programs. And then about almost a year ago, 10 months ago, I joined Udemy to lead our BEDI efforts and also our people partner team. So one thing that I have made a lot of pivots in like from research to consulting to nonprofit to now corporate, a lot of changes. And it's not been easy. It's definitely like at every point that I've made a pivot, it's like now you need to prove yourself again.
Yes.
And sometimes I do put effort into that, but sometimes I'm like, okay, you're just asking me to prove just because it's for your comfort. You want to feel convinced that I'm capable of doing it, and it's not for my learning. Because
100%.
I am very eager to put in the extra work, but if that extra work is for my learning versus your comfort, that's where I draw the line. And that's where I usually pause to see, why are you asking me to do this? So
Yes.
I think it's very important if I go back in time and tell my younger self or anybody else I'm mentoring is like, go learn, go out and do what you need to do, prove it to the world, but don't just get caught up in proving to the world.
I mean,
Because
it's really hard because when I think about you, Karen, sorry to interrupt you, but you really are strong woman. I don't like to use that term, strong woman, but you are a confident woman, and it takes courage, and not courage. It takes confidence, and we just keep the word confidence to be able to say, wait a minute, why are you asking me that? But people don't
exactly.
have that confidence to say, okay, I'm going to do what they say. How do you do that without necessarily people feeling offended or, oh, she's a bit that or a bit that.
Yeah, definitely. So I would always say draw that line of like, why are you who you're proving to and why are you proving? Because proof is not asked for everybody. It's usually asked more for women and even more for women of color. So make a pause of like, why are you making a point and who are you proving to and why?
Very good advice. It's interesting because you say you pivoted, you went from nonprofit and now you come back to a commercial and corporate brands. Was that pivoting easy? But also, what brought you to Udemy and why did you choose Udemy?
So it wasn't easy. It was definitely hard. But I always also want to look at like what I'm doing, how much impact is it making? Like, can I
Yes.
amplify my impact? So that's always my North Star. And I felt from consulting, it was like the impact that I could make was smaller than what I could make from inside a company. And why I chose Udemy was a very clear choice for me because having a background in like, a lot of international programming and capacity building and D&I, the biggest piece that I see is the reason for inequity. There is a lot, but for me, the biggest reason for inequity is the lack of access to opportunity.
Yes.
Not that some people are capable or not capable. It's like if people are given an opportunity, they will take advantage of it.
Correct.
And to me, Udemy redefines what access to opportunity means. It opens up the playing field of like everybody can come and learn. Everybody can develop these skills. And to me, once you give people the tools, they will make the best use of it. And so for me, Udemy giving people those tools was a great way of like, we are opening up the doors for economic mobility, like moving around continents, doing different jobs, making transitions and pivots as I did. So Udemy definitely had a very strong pull for me for that specific reason.
Love that. Let's talk about your role, VP Global Partner. What does that really mean? Global Partners and BEDI. So tell us more about that. And again, I can see that you're a woman of impact. So we align on this. For me, I take so much power and take so much pleasure, not power, pleasure in make sure that I do something that makes sense and I can really make a positive impact. So I'm sure that you can do that at a global scale. So tell us in terms of what makes your job so exciting.
Yeah, so my previous job was very focused on primarily diversity and inclusion and some pieces of people strategy. But I would say, especially from a very US lens and even global lens, I would say, we have seen that we have not made much progress in D&I efforts despite best intentions.
Yeah.
And I come from a research background, as I said, and for me, that's a very important question of like, why? Why are we putting so much, like we're putting so many resources, efforts, money, why are we not moving the needle? For me, on the corporate side, the pieces, like we create these D&I functions and heads of D&I and D&I teams, but then they sit in a silo. They have to do like D&I programming, go and talk to like community organizations, support ERG networks, which is all good and very important work. But what we fail to do is to integrate that work where it actually matters.
Correct.
And to me, where it matters is people processes and leadership behavior. Those are two important things. Until people processes are not equitable and until leaders are not leading to drive change in an inclusive way, your D&I teams cannot make a change.
You cannot.
So
Can I ask you to break it down? Because I think you said something that is very important. And I think this is where we see a lot of D&I company, not cutting down on a D&I agenda or giving up and so on. And I see so many times it's not done the right way. And I really want to also emphasize, you say people process and leadership. Can you come back to us and explain a little bit more what you mean by what is great people process? Because I don't think people get this right, as you
Yeah,
said.
and I'll definitely come back to that, because that's also the piece that makes my job interesting. So for me at Udemy, I lead both the D&I function and I lead what we call our people partners, or what you call HR business partners, depending on which company you are in. So they basically work and sit in leaders. They work with leaders, sit in within organizations. So imagine, like, if you have a sales unit, you'll have a couple of people partners there. You have your tech unit, you have your GNA. So you have people partners there. Their role is twofold. One, to guide the leaders in what are the right people decisions, and then to support the people in getting that information to them. And when I say people processes, these basically include things like, who are you hiring? Why are you hiring certain people? Even going back to, like, what is the job description? What skills do you need? So people partners would partner with the recruiting team on trying to understand that. And what is the hiring criteria? Can you hire someone internal? Can you give someone the stretch opportunity? Can you develop someone on your team? Then the second piece is, who are you promoting? Why are you promoting this person over this person? And the third one is, who are you giving the merit increase and who are you giving the bonus to? So these are the basic, there are tons of others, there are benefits, but these are the three basic pieces of the people processes. So who are you hiring? Who are you giving talent development opportunities? And who are you rewarding? The people partners basically are very close to the leaders in helping them make that decision. For me, it's very important that my people, because now I manage both the people partner and the D&I teams, my people partner keep that lens of inclusion and equity front and center for our leaders.
Correct.
And that is what the people process is. Like, I'm promoting someone because I like them and because of the same gender and the same ethnicity, or I'm actually promoting someone because of the great work that they have done, even though they have challenged me, they have a different perspective, they bring diversity to the team. So that's what I mean by people processes. And that's where I also mean by leadership commitment to it. The people partners help you make that decision as a leader. So the reason why I'm excited about this role, coming back to your initial question, is it gives me the tools as a D&I leader to realize my mission and vision for an inclusive company and culture. Because without these tools, it's basically, I'm told, go build a castle. And I'm just given, like, go build a castle.
Yeah.
I have the tools. I don't have the construction materials. How am I going to build a castle? Now, with that people partner role and bringing that D&I and people partner role together, I both have the vision and the blueprint, but I also have the building blocks and the materials. And bringing that together, I understand, is my responsibility, but that helps bring D&I, make it more actionable. So that's the whole piece of, like, what I'm responsible for and how I see influence in this
I
particular
love it.
piece.
And what you say is so important. And I think alongside that, companies need to understand it's not something that will happen overnight. That
Yes,
commitment,
very
yes,
true.
it doesn't happen overnight.
It's a journey.
It's a
It is a long
journey.
journey.
100%, it's a journey. And again, that's why that commitment, this is why culture is important and not just a follower of what you see even market is saying. And this is why you see the silent quitting. You see a number of organizations that are disappearing and so on and so forth and missing out. So before you joined Udemy, what was your vision of the culture of Udemy, and has it been different from what you thought? And also alongside that, one thing, and this is my personal experience, I love when I went to the office in Ireland, it was so diverse. It's like you could speak, people speaking all languages, and on the wall, it's really that celebration of our beautiful differences, but that unite us even more towards an idea of this is our power. The more we are diverse, the more we can take it further. So I'm curious in terms of how does that culture translate, whether you are in Ireland, in the US, or whatsoever, and how do you come across for you?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research on Udemy. I heard a lot of, like, earnings calls to understand how the leadership thinks both about the business. And I also read a lot of materials on, like, the culture pieces here. I'm not too surprised after I joined. Like, I had a good sense. As I said, I'm a researcher, so I keep coming back. I have to do my homework. So I did do that. The piece that I would say I'm most struck by is there is so much. I think there are two pieces. When you talk about D&I, there is the first piece is commitment, of like, is the leadership in the company committed? That creates like the beginner culture for D&I. But I think a lot of majority of companies get stuck in that commitment piece. So you'll have a lot of like, manifestos, you will have CEOs like sending out stuff on like social media, which is good. I'm not critiquing it, but I'm saying that's the first step. That's not, as we talked about, it's a journey. You have to mature to the second step, which is the movement from commitment to action.
Correct.
What are you actually doing it? How are you moving your vision to realizing it? And I think the piece that I was very excited when I arrived at Udemy is that we are in that action phase. The phase of like, there is, and that is the beauty of it, because when you're in actioning, there is a lot of discussion, there is a lot of pushback, there is a lot of disagreement. Because you're like, okay, we need to get to this. This is how we should do it. And someone will be like, no, I don't think this is like a great idea. We should do it this way. And that is the beauty, as you said, of the diversity piece, because it's not like our diversity report, we have so many Black people. Like that's what a lot of companies do in the diversity report. Here is when there is the piece of like diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being invited to the dance floor. And the dance floor is messy. It's like you will step on someone's toes, you will hit someone else. That is the whole beauty of it, right?
I like the twist to it, because people don't talk about that twist. Like, might be a greasy floor, or you might be slippery and so forth. Do you really want to?
And we need to talk about that. Yeah, because it's a very beautifully painted picture. You'll have a diverse workforce and team, and then you will be a highly productive team. Yes. But from a diverse workforce and team and to become a high performing team, there is that middle stage of messiness where everybody needs to learn how to work with people who have a different opinion. And I think we are in that phase of like, okay, let's build this. People build this together. And that's what I like about Udemy. It's a little bit of like, I will challenge you. You're going to challenge me. There is going to be, and that's why we want diversity, right? Diversity means you'll have a different opinion. So that's the piece that I'm super excited about. And that's the piece of the culture that I like.
Yes.
And it's not like we need to always stay here. As I said, we need to mature. So we need to mature from like action, from commitment to action. And I see we need to also mature from action to finally like what's the outcome of a high performing team. So we need to get there. But I really love the fact that we are at the second phase of the maturity level, which makes like, the final goal is now nearer than you are like a little bit further away. So that's definitely something I find super exciting about Udemy's culture of like, let's challenge each other and let's be better together.
100%, 100%. You know that this is one thing that I always say, that if I didn't run my own business, I might consider Udemy as the place to be. But for the Black women who are listening to our story and listen to our Fireside chat, what advice would you give them, and how could we give them an insight to what it is like to work at Udemy for them, and feel that they can come as their full self?
Yes. So I will say two things. One is first, I think companies always overuse the word of like, come work for us, you can bring your full self.
Yeah.
I think nobody brings their full self from the start. The companies have to own that. The onus is on the company. Just because you put this on your hiring statement, like, we are a very inclusive culture, you can bring your authentic selves in. Let me tell you, if I'm the individual hearing that, I have brought my authentic self at many companies and have been burnt because of that.
That's so true.
So my piece is just because you say that, someone is not going to bring their full self in. Once they show up, you as a company have to keep proving to them again and again and again that this is a safe space. So that work for the company is continuous. One thing that I would say is, we definitely are, as I said, one thing you should be excited about, that we are on that phase 2 of like, you will come in and you will have a space. I definitely think, when you say you need a seat at the table, you will definitely have the seat at the table. But we all have work to do. We are learning as a company. I would not say we have solved all our D&I challenges. Now, I think how I see it, like, we have a lot to learn, but we also need help. So when you come to Udemy as a brown or a Black woman or someone who's not from a dominant majority group, you will also have to help us learn a little bit, because you definitely have a seat at the table. We need to learn how to make sure that you have a bigger voice at the table. And we are trying, but I will not say that we have solved it all. But I'm also saying the more and more diversity we have, we will get better at it. We can't get better at it in a silo. So when you come in, you will definitely have that space, but we will also ask you to lean in to help us get better on that journey, to help us move from that action piece of it to the outcomes piece of it. So I'm not saying like we have solved everything here, come and you'll have like the best time. I'm saying come because we need your partnership and
Correct.
help us become better, help us move in that direction of becoming a more inclusive culture. So there will be work for you to do, but you will have the space to do that work and you will get the respect and appreciation for doing that work. So that to me is the exciting piece. We haven't solved all the challenges, but we need help to solve it.
And I think it's important as a company to recognize where you are in your journey. You know, if you say everything's perfect, and that's also creating false assumption or false reality of what it's really like. It's like, we're on this journey, come and join us. And it's important because we value your voice, Mr. Picky. And then, you know, I love the fact that it's like, when people say like, bring your full self, nobody should bring their full self. Because nobody wants to see you crazy at work. Let's be honest.
It is tricky because I made that mistake early on in my career, like bring your full self. But I'm like I'm different at home. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. Like I'm very different with how I behave with my mom versus how I behave with my kid. I don't behave the same way. So there is a little bit of a nuance, like how I behave at work. It should not be stifling environment, but you still have to operate a little bit differently. Right. So I think this whole blanket statement of bring your full self is also like, it sounds good. What does it really mean?
What does it really mean? And it's misleading to what
it is very misleading. It is very misleading.
To reality is. My last question I wanted to ask you is, when you think about your career, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Oh boy, I think a lot about this. I always say I will not be able to solve all the problems, but am I leaving the place, the organization, and the team better than how I found it? That is my goal. I may not be able to solve everything, but I'll definitely put my best foot forward on like, are the processes better? Are the people feeling better than how I found it when I came in? And that to me is the North Star, because I very seriously believe that the role that I have being a brown immigrant woman in the US is because of all the work that generations did before me.
Correct.
And they did not see the fruits of it. And I am living the fruits of a lot of their hard work. So I also want to put in that hard work, that maybe the next generation is not having this conversation that we are having. 100. They will still have a conversation, and hopefully that's a different conversation. And what is my role to play in that, so that I move the conversation forward? That is what I think once I exit my legacy, I definitely want that to be like, did I make this place better for the generations to come? And that's my North Star.
That's a great legacy, and I think everybody should think exactly like you. Are you making an impact? How do you want to be remembered, and what have you done? And I think a lot of people don't always assume that the only way to success is how much money you have in your bank account. That they realize that the best success and the best lifestyle that you can create for present, future, and past is that impact.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, of course.
Very important, especially because with women, and especially brown and black women, do make a ton of money. Yeah. Don't get sidelined that you only have to do work that's mission oriented, and you should do that, but do not forget the fact economic power will put you in places that you are not in. Right. So don't always give up like, should I be mission oriented and change the world, or should I make more money? Make more money, because let me tell you, when you make more money, you will have more impact and power to change the world. Yeah, so it's 100%. Not either or. And I think a lot of women are giving this, are you getting like fulfillment for your work? You should be happy about that. I'm like, why? Why should I just get fulfillment for my work and be happy? And someone who's a man should get all the money for it. So please go for the money. Economic power is important. Yeah, and you know what you said is, I totally agree with you, is that there's different phases to your career. And I remember what this young girl said, oh, I just joined this company and I want to do this. I said, like, you're not there yet. What you need to do is to build your career, because when you are in a position of power, then you can have those conversations. And again, if your company doesn't see you as valuable, they're not going to listen to you. Say, you know what, just focus on your work at this stage. And it's a situation where you don't have time to try to save the world. And again,
this is where I am. So as I say, I'm probably on my 5th career and I've changed it. Now I'm in a position where money has been
Yes.
great, better than so forth. And that's why when you hear people say, like, yeah, I had the car, but you had the car, you had the thing. Now you want to, so what your phase of your life need to have a clear direction. But without that, without power of influence, you can't do that unless it's obviously your full-time job.
Well said.
But it's been such a pleasure to have you in this conversation. We could have done that for an hour, but unfortunately, that's all we have for now. And for all you that watching this